together. Radio Manu 91 where it's always better. Where it's always better. Yo, सुबह का सूरज या शाम का रंग, we bring you joy हर जुबान का धन. Community की बात हम हैं आपके साथ, let's spread the love, चलो मिल के साथ. Tune in, turn up, दिल से बात करो. Radio Manu 92 FM के साथ चलो. Every voice counts, हर लम्हा यहाँ चलो बात करके देखते हैं. Let's all shine on. Yo, let's all go. सेहत की बात or dreams to share. Radio Manu 92 FM, we're always there. From unity to joy, we bring the light. Every word, every tune makes everything right. Listen up, it's time to unite. Radio Manu 92 FM, shining bright. Dill se suno, we love and care. Chalo baat karke dekhte hain, let's take it there. So come along for the ride. Radio Manu 92 FM, we're by your side. चलो बात करके देखते हैं. Your voice, your guide.
ये है रेडियो मानू 90.0 FM. चलो बात करके देखते हैं.
This is Radio Manu 90.0 FM presenting Saheli Samvad.
आदाब हैदराबाद, मैं हूं आरजे मोनिशा और सहेली संवाद के एक और एपिसोड में आपका स्वागत है. सहेली संवाद is brought to you by Center for Women's Studies, Maulana Azad National Urdu University and Rubaru, a youth development organization working on issues of social inclusion in Hyderabad for the last 10 years. Our guest on today's episode is Anita Hariharan, and our topic for today, the title is Daring Greatly. We have heard Anita's entrepreneurial journey in one of our previous episodes. But in today's episode, we're really going to understand what enabled her to dream big, to dare greatly, and hear about what were the stepping stones in helping her realize that dream. Welcome back, Anita.
Thank you, Manisha.
So, Anita, I think just as we begin, we always start with an introduction. So, while we've heard your entrepreneurial journey, but today we're not going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about what were the different spaces or what were the different enabling stepping stones along the way that really helped you pursue your dream of becoming an entrepreneur.
Okay. I think one of the big things when I decided to become an entrepreneur, when I wanted to become an entrepreneur was whether I was confident about my skills and whether I had the requisite knowledge to be an entrepreneur. And then I realized that I needed to go back to study. And I wanted to pursue an MBA. And but I was already a mom by then. I had a 5-year-old. But I still thought that an education, like a proper curriculum and a full-fledged course would really give me the skills that I didn't have from my career before that. So that's when I decided to study again.
Okay. And so what did you study? Where did you study? How did you choose? How did you decide? And especially, like you said, with a 5-year-old, how did that whole thing fit together in your education?
Yes. So I actually researched quite a bit as to, whether I could, manage with a short course or whether I should do a 1-year MBA, 2-year MBA, what would really give me the confidence, etc. And then I kind of got various opinions about it. One of the things why I chose a 2-year MBA program was because of the internship experience between the 2 years that would give me some real life skills. as well as I wanted to study abroad. That was one of the things, because I wanted that multicultural exposure, that multinational exposure, and to be able to kind of approach topics in that mindset. So creating a global mindset was important to me. The ability to practice my skills in an internship was important to me, and that's why I chose like a 2-year MBA program. And I applied to various universities in the US, and one of which was MSU, which is Michigan State University, and they were kind enough to kind of give me a very good financial support and backing, which was there's an organization called Forte Foundation in the US, which funds women and their career aspirations. And I was fortunate to be a Forte Fellow, and Michigan State also supported me in terms of a fee waiver. So that really made it clear for me that was the program to take.
Okay. And did you go alone to pursue it? Because you mentioned you had a child. So
no, I did not. I actually went with my son.
Okay.
And he was 5 years, as I mentioned, and so he was young. It was very different for him. So I enrolled him in a local public school district. And interestingly, in the first semester, I did not know what my schedule would be. And when I realized my schedule would kind of spill over longer than his school hours, I had to kind of figure out, how to manage that. And I went to the Family Resource Center at MSU, and I spoke to the person there, and I kind of requested her if she can give me any kind of assistance. And they took a couple of days to get back to me, but the good part was, they were able to give me a seat in the after-school program for him in the local school district. Which really helped me kind of attend team meetings, do my presentations, attend other simulation exercises, etc. Which after which I could just pick him up from school.
Wow.
Yeah.
So before you enrolled, or before you signed up, or before you went to pursue your master's, what was the reaction here? What was the reaction at family? What was the reaction of people around you?
Yes.
In choosing this? Were they okay, not okay? What is that like?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of apprehension. I spoke to a few people who were, from the industry, from, whether it would make financial sense, whether it would really help me get better jobs after a 2-year MBA program, the visa issues associated with being abroad, etc. And also, whether it was the right time, whether I'll be able to manage with a 5-year rule. And everybody discussed discouraged me. Everyone I spoke to discouraged me. My parents were also very apprehensive at that time about me going alone. And I think one of the things is very strongly I felt inside that I wanted to do it. And I had a more long-term vision of I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to develop my skills. I wanted to feel confident in myself. And therefore, I wanted to get out of my comfort zone and put myself in this place where I can really feel and develop that confidence. And from that perspective, I took a conscious choice that yes, it would be difficult, as everybody was telling me at that point, but it would still be worth it for myself. And which is why, I decided to go ahead with it. And it so happened that these enabling factors really help. That the financial support, the support for daycare, and all of that were, key factors in enabling the realization of that vision.
Of that dream. Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just coming back and thanks for sharing it yourself as well. So the Forte Fellow financial grant that you got in pursuing the education, which was specifically for women who were aspiring to do a master's in the US. So that as one enabling stone. And the other is the family center creating support for access to after-school program for your son. And those two being the starting enabling points in this story that you're sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. In a very interesting conversation with Anita, understanding the different enabling factors in helping her realize her dream of becoming an entrepreneur. Stay tuned with us. We'll be right back after this short break on Saheli Samvad on this episode titled Daring Greatly.
आप सुन सुन रहे हैं सहेली संवाद, रेडियो मानू 90.0 FM का वुमेन्स शो। This is Radio Manu, a community radio station.
So join the wave, come along for the ride. Radio Manu 90.0 FM, we're by your side. चलो बात करके देखते हैं.
Your voice, your guide.
Let's listen to History's Mysteries.
दोस्तों आदाब, आप सुन रहे हैं हिस्ट्रीज मिस्ट्रीज आरजे अवैध के साथ। आज के प्रोग्राम में हम बात करेंगे बारकोड की, एक ऐसी इजाद के बारे में जो आज दुनिया भर में खरीदो फरोख्त, तिजारत और सामान की शिनाख्त का एक अहम जरिया बन चुकी है। बारकोड की कहानी सन 1948 में शुरू होती है, जब अमेरिका के एक सुपरमार्केट के मालिक ने ख्वाहिश जाहिर की कि काश कोई ऐसा निज़ाम हो जो प्रोडक्ट्स की मालूमात को तेज़ी से पढ़ सके। ये ख्याल यूनिवर्सिटी के 2 तालिब इल्मों नॉर्मन जोसेफ वुडलैंड और बर्नार्ड सिल्वर तक पहुंचा। दोनों ने इस मसले का हल तलाश करने का फैसला किया। कहा जाता है कि एक दिन नॉर्मन जोसेफ वुडलैंड साहिल समंदर पर बैठे रेत में मोर्स कोड के नुक्ते और लकीरें बना रहे थे। उन्होंने इन लकीरों को नीचे की तरफ खींचा तो मुख्तलिफ जुड़ाई की सीधी लाइनें बन गई। यहीं से बारकोड का बुनियादी तस्वुर पैदा हुआ। सन 1952 में इन्हें इस इजाद का पैटर्न भी मिल गया। इब्तदाई बारकोड गोल शक्ल का था, लेकिन बाद में स्याह और सफ़ेद सीधी लाइनों वाला डिज़ाइन ज़्यादा मौसर साबित हुआ। 26 जून 1974 को अमेरिका के एक सुपरमार्केट में पहली बार बारकोड स्कैन किया गया। दिलचस्प बात यह है कि स्कैन होने वाली पहली चीज़ रिगलीज जूसी फ्रूट च्युइंग गम थी। आज बारकोड सिर्फ दुकानों तक महदूद नहीं है, ये हॉस्पिटल्स, लाइब्रेरीज, फैक्ट्रीज, पोस्टल सर्विसेज और ऑनलाइन कॉमर्स में भी इस्तेमाल होता है। रोज़ाना अरबों बार बारकोड स्कैन किए जाते हैं, जिससे वक्त की बचत होती है और गलतियों में भी कमी आती है। बारकोड इस बात की बेहतरीन मिसाल है कि एक सादा सा ख्याल किस तरह पूरी दुनिया के तिजारती निज़ाम को बदल सकता है। दोस्तों, आप सुन रहे थे हिस्ट्रीज मिस्ट्रीज आरजे अवैध के साथ। आपसे फिर मुलाकात होगी, तब तक के लिए सुनते रहिए रेडियो मानो 90.0 FM। चलो बात करके देखते हैं।
आप सुन रहे थे History's Mysteries. For sales, marketing and brand promotions, write to us on Radio Manu at manu.edu.in.
So join the wave, come along for the ride. Radio Manu 90.0 FM, we're by your side. चलो बात करके देखते हैं.
Your voice, your guide.
सुन रहे हैं सहेली संवाद, रेडियो मानू 90.0 FM का वुमेन्स शो।
Welcome back on Saheli Samvad. You're tuned into our conversation with Anita, where we're talking about her dream of pursuing a master's and really what were the enabling factors that helped her pursue that dream. Thank you, Anita. So before the break, we were talking about the 2 stepping stones that you established around the financial support that you got, the childcare support that you got.
Right.
So what were the other spaces during your education that you were doing? What were the other spaces? Because I feel like when you leave the place that you come from to pursue a higher education or a job or anything elsewhere else,
Right.
you're really stranded in some sense. Like not stranded, but really you're alone. You're away from your own family. You're away from your own belongingness, if we may call it, right, to the city
Right.
that we are part of. So what were the other enabling aspects that helped you in that education that you had taken on?
Yeah, so I think very important thing is community, right? Of course, family support comes first, and I think my parents also did support me. They visited me for a couple of months in the first semester, so they were there to kind of handle when we were dealing with the cold. It was really cold, and it used to snow a lot. And but even when they were not there, I could lean on this community of people at the university, right?
Yeah.
My professors, and also my classmates, and the way they also made small adjustments sometimes. Like, if we had some team meetings where we had to deliver on team projects for various courses, they used to adjust the timings for me so that I could go pick up my son, or they would sometimes then come over to my place, and we used to do team meetings in my house, at the end of which they would end up playing with my son.
Okay.
So that was really key, as supporting factors to me. And in general, the larger community, like we lived in the university apartments, and there were other PhD students with families also working there and living there, and we kind of helped each other a lot. And in particular, I have this one instance which I wanted to share where it was a snow day. It was snowing a lot, and so my son's school was closed, and but the university doesn't close. Whatever. And I had an exam on that day, so I had to go.
Yeah.
So I didn't know, and you cannot leave your children alone up to a certain age in the US. So I had to figure out where to leave him. And there was this other PhD mom whose mother-in-law was visiting from Vietnam. And she couldn't communicate in English. I didn't know Vietnamese, but and my friend was not at home. So she said, "Don't worry, you go for your exam, just drop him at our place and tell my mother-in-law. I will tell her, you just drop him there and go." And so I just went and dropped him, and I left for my exam. And it was interesting because we could just not communicate with each other. But it's just strangers like that in your community that end up being your resource when you really need them.
Thank you for sharing. I think a fun story, especially how we are able to break communication barriers as well when we are building this community. Another thought that I had when you were talking about community, especially, right, and when relationships play out and relationships are in that enabling environment. Relationships are also tricky because there's also an emotional transaction in some sense, if I may use that word here. So how do those play out here? Because in an enabling environment especially, are we talking about these emotions really being a give and take, or are we saying that these are matter of fact, that did people have to make these adjustments like you said? Were there feelings around this? Was there compromise, quote unquote, around this, or what was that? Or was it just like, she has a son, we need to make space, or let's just figure it out? So how did that work in that?
So that's a very interesting question, right? Because it's also, in some sense, the onus is also on us when we have a dream and we want to realize it. Of course, other people are supporting it, but what is a part that we are also playing in that relationship, right? So that it doesn't feel like a compromise to the other person. And in some sense, I had to be very professional about what is due from my side, and am I doing it? At no point did I even talk about it being as a concession, right? It was never that I asked for a concession because I was dealing with my own personal situation and studying. It was not really a concession. I was fully aware that I'm going to contribute fully 100%, whether it was a team, whether it was, so similarly, if their relationship with my friend, and so when she helped me, I also helped her, right? And so it is a give and take in some sense, but it not necessarily transactional, but it's also where we as women, I think, should not ask for it as a concession. We have to fully contribute 100% from our side and not really ask for any leniency, but yes, ask for support when we require it.
I have another follow-up question to you just based on what you shared, but I'm going to ask you that right after this break. You're tuned into Saheli Samvad, and we're in conversation with Anita on understanding what have been her enabling steps into achieving her dream. Stay tuned with us. We'll be right back after this short break.
You're listening to Saheli Samvad, Radio Manu 90.0 FM's Women's Show. ये है रेडियो मानू, एक कम्युनिटी रेडियो स्टेशन।
So join the wave, come along for the ride. Radio Manu 90.0 FM, we're by your side. चलो बात करके देखते हैं.
Your voice, your guide.
ये है रेडियो मानू 90.0 FM। आइए अब सुनते हैं द माइंडफुल मिनट।
बुर्दबारी और इल्म इंसान की सीरत को आरास्ता करते हैं। हज़रत इमाम हुसैन।
खुशी उसी को मिलती है जो खुद को खुश करने की कला जानता है। संतोष कलवार।
Remember, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Roosevelt.
This is Radio Manu 90.0 FM. You were listening to the Mindful Minute. मार्केटिंग और ब्रांड प्रमोशंस के लिए हमसे राब्ता करें radiomanu@manu.edu.in पर।
So join the wave, come along for the ride. Radio Manu 90.0 FM, we're by your side. चलो बात करके देखते हैं.
Your voice, your guide.
You're listening to Saheli Samvad, Radio Manu 90.0 FM's Women's Show.
Welcome back on Saheli Samvad. We are in conversation with Anita talking about her dreams and how she found enabling environments to pursue those dreams. So Anita, just before the break again, you were mentioning how it becomes our responsibility to take on these dreams, right? To take it on and figure out and ask for support wherever needed, whether it's in this community, whether it's whatever kind of support we may need, especially when you have a son and you're working towards negotiating both, right? Like navigating and negotiating, saying, I want to pursue my education, my son is coming along with me, what am I going to do along the way? How do I ensure they are cared for while I'm also prioritizing myself?
Correct.
So while you said that the responsibility lies with us in pursuing that dream, but what about the environment around us? Like, and when I asked about feelings and emotions, I also meant, do you think it should be matter of fact that access to support or access to these resources need to be enabling through the environment that they're part of, instead of just me saying that I want to fight, without even me coming and asking for support?
Right.
So,
yes.
Yeah, what do you think?
Absolutely, right. I think you have a great point there, in that it should already be there. And it should be available, easily available, those access to those resources, whether it's financial, childcare, whatever, right? Yeah. The community, the support, the enablers in your circle of influence, your ecosystem, right? It has to be there, because I think that's what helps us realize our dreams, and it should be available to everyone, and especially women, because that's what we're talking about when we say social inclusion, right? When you say inclusion, you are implicitly kind of acknowledging that people are in different life stages. There is a gender component to it. There is a family component to it. They have different sets of responsibilities. So if we have to create a level playing field, then those enabling resources have to be available for everyone. And they have to be available to basically accommodate for those differences.
Yeah.
That's where I think then that's when it's inclusion.
So do you think it's different? Do you think education for women is different in accessing some of these resources versus for somebody else?
Yeah, I think education for women, especially in India today, it is easy to access for young women. But once the woman is married, or the woman has a child or children, or the woman has even older children, for example. I think one is that as a society we don't, there is a certain age for education which we've not really, it's a mental thing. It's a mindset thing basically. But there's also life stage. That women might want to study at different life stages. And I think we need to enable that. We need to enable that for different kinds of people, and especially for women who want to do something different. I mean, there are people who take breaks also due to motherhood or whatever, and before they want to get back to their career, they might want to study. So we have to enable that, honestly.
So you mean a career break? In motherhood, because I don't know if motherhood is a break, right? Because
no, career break. Sorry, I meant a career break due to motherhood. And if there's been a certain number of years after which the woman wants to study and have a new career altogether, I think that enabling environment should be there.
Yeah. And I think that is really the difference also that you're talking about when we're talking about especially pursuing some dreams as women.
Yes.
And in this phase, in the sphere of education, higher education, careers, aspiration, and how that really plays out.
Because I think personally, I believe that education is what builds your career, right? In some sense, it could be any kind of education. It need not be just a diploma or a degree, but any kind of education that really skills you and makes you more confident of starting or pursuing or whatever, pursuing a dream is what I mean, I greatly value that.
So when you talk about education and you're talking about all kinds of education, also wanted to hear about the exposure bit within education, because like when you talked about your education that you chose, you also talked about the exposure and the multicultural global exposure.
Right.
So what role does that play in career aspirations, in education, in these dreams?
I think the biggest contributor to that multicultural exposure for me is that I am able to just deal with a person one-to-one, right? In terms of people come from different backgrounds and they have different, they speak in different languages, etc. But there is a certain humanity at the end of it, which is really what binds us. And to not be able to not differentiate between people, that's something that multicultural exposure can really help you with. And that's something I see in my son, right? Like he doesn't differentiate between boys and girls so much in the way he interacts with people, or even people from different cultural backgrounds, and that's something that we greatly should value from an overseas experience, or even an experience within India where we are
diverse culture.
Yeah, where we are in a situation where we have the opportunity to deal with people from diverse cultures.
Thank you, Anita, for sharing your story of your education and how you were able to use different enabling platforms, enabling opportunities and access to resources till your education that you mentioned. So in your dream of becoming an entrepreneur, right, education was one element that itself became an enabler. There were multiple enablers that pushed that dream, and then that dream itself becoming an enabler to your larger dream of being an entrepreneur, right?
Right.
So what else was there? So when you came back from your education, what were the things that you did? What were the other opportunities or access to opportunities that you got to fulfill your ultimate dream of, pursuing the entrepreneurial journey?
Okay. So definitely, I mean, I was in a corporate job after my MBA, which really helped me learn a lot. Learn by doing, as they say, right? So yes, that definitely contributed a lot of skill building in me as well. And I think post that, so there have been many people in the corporate sector, my bosses, the environments that I was in, the problems that I was given to solve. Those were also part of my journey towards becoming an entrepreneur and the building of confidence, as I was talking about. And of course, today there are a lot of opportunities available for women entrepreneurs, particularly in terms of incubators and accelerators, and that are women focused. So we were part of one such women focused incubated cohort of women social entrepreneurs, actually, by Unlimited India.
Okay.
And this was also a great experience, where there were a lot of inputs given to us in terms of what kind of business problems, how do you talk about it, how do you kind of build your financial plan, how do you market your product. So all of these things we went into in great depth. Similarly, there are so many other programs now. Currently, we are under the Akash Accelerator program with IIIT Hyderabad, which also kind of provides us with similar inputs on leadership development, on various topics, right? And these are opportunities that exist today more than they existed 10 years ago in India. And I think these are the enablers that entrepreneurs, especially women entrepreneurs, need to completely they need to grab these opportunities. There are also financial opportunities available. There are women-focused funds. There are the Startup India seed funds. There's so many other opportunities that we need to be aware about. We need to apply to as women entrepreneurs, and those are all enabling our journey to becoming an woman entrepreneur.
Technology is an enabler in accessing some of these resources, right? Like right now, you can just sit at home, browse through social media, and you get to know so many of these opportunities coming up, fellowships, all of these incubation opportunities, all of that.
Yes, absolutely. I think post the pandemic, during and post the pandemic, I think it's become a lot easier for women to access this. Like even I remember some of the incubation programs were in person all the time. Now a lot of it is remote, right? Which also makes it easier for some of us to kind of balance our personal life, expected roles, and also pursue the dreams that we want to pursue. So a lot of that work from home jobs that are available today, a lot of that are basically the enablers.
Thank you so much, Anita, for sharing each of these different enabling environments that have been part of your roadmap in helping you achieve your dream. In fact, I don't even want to use the word helping, because I feel help itself takes away the default of finding access to some of that support. You should be able to access support as a woman, as a parent, as needing to do something, just that it's there, instead of sometimes even needing to ask for help.
Right.
So thank you for sharing all of this, different enabling environments, and how we look at the finance, how do we look at childcare, how do we look at community building, how do we look at technology, how do we look at access to education, and really how exposure in itself continues to be there. Even after education in itself is one kind of exposure, but exposure doesn't stop, right? How we continue to use exposure in our growth, exposure in itself as an enabling process into achieving our dreams. So thank you so much for joining us today. It has been very enriching conversation and hearing about your dream and how you achieved it.
Thank you.
This was today's episode of Saheli Samvad. और हम बात कर रहे थे अनीता के साथ on understanding what were her enabling environments, enabling stepping stones into achieving her dreams. Thank you for tuning into Saheli Samvad. We'll be back on another day, on another episode with another guest. तब तक के लिए this is RJ Monisha signing off.
आप सुन रहे थे सहेली संवाद रेडियो मानो 90.0 FM पर. चलो बात करके देखते हैं.
दिस इज रेडियो मानू 90.0 FM। चलो बात करके देखते हैं।